WWE WrestleMania 38 gave us one of the most electrifying moments in recent memory, the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin. But what if I told you that this iconic comeback almost didn't happen? In this video, we are going to be digging deep into the true story behind Steve Austin's WrestleMania 38 appearance, revealing the behind the scenes hurdles, last minute decisions, and the sheer will that made this an unforgettable moment a reality. Sit back, and get ready for a wild ride as we uncover how close we came to missing out on the Steve Austin's return match at WrestleMania 38. It was Kevin Owens. He did the impossible. He actually got Stone Cold Steve Austin to come out of retirement. It was the first match that the Texas Rattlesnake had worked in 19 years. He had his retirement match at WrestleMania 19 in 2003 against the one and only The Rock. It was their trilogy bout at WrestleMania, and it was only fitting that Steve Austin go out with The Rock. However, at WrestleMania 38, Kevin Owens did the impossible by getting Austin out of retirement. They worked the main event of WrestleMania 38 Night 1, marking the first time the Texas Rattlesnake had put on the boots and stomped a mud hole in somebody in an actual match. However, earlier in the day, no one involved in Austin's comeback had decided whether or not the segment between him and Owens would even be a match at all. Now, Kevin Owens did a recent interview with Chris Van Vliet where he looked back on this moment and talked about how everything came together. Owens said Vince wanted him to be on WrestleMania in Dallas. He wasn't sure in what capacity. I'm not sure how. I think they talked. He said no at first. From what I understand, he said no. Now, look, Steve Austin has become a legendary performer and has a legendary resume at WrestleMania. What was his best match? Well, there's been a lot of talk of that. I think it's actually his WrestleMania 17 match with The Rock in 2001. The only problem is, obviously, Austin turned heel at the end of that match. Now, sticking on to this WrestleMania 38 match, keep in mind that McMahon and WWE then asked Austin again, and that's when he was asked who would be against. Seemingly into the idea of doing something with KO, that's when the discussion started around what exactly their segment would look like. Now, KO explained that there was options for a full match, a talking segment, which is probably what most people expected, or maybe just a stunner. Even though it might not have appeared if a match had been decided on weeks in advance, Owens stated that that was far from true. He said, up until the day of the show, we had no idea. I would talk to Austin, ask him what we were going to do. He says, I don't know, depends on Vince. So I'd talk to Vince, and Vince would go, I don't know, depends on Steve. And I'm like, can't you guys just talk to each other? Up until that day, we weren't sure what was going to be. Now, keep in mind that WWE did this angle where for weeks and weeks and weeks, Owens would come out there and talk badly about the people of Texas, the great state of Texas. And that was leading to the Steve Austin match. Now, keep in mind, there was also a report, I think it came out in either January or February of that year, 2023, being that, hey, Austin's thinking about coming back and doing another match. And, we've heard this song and dance before, and everyone's like, there's no way that Steve Austin's going to do that. There's just no way. And then all of a sudden, Owen starts cutting these promos, and it's like, holy crap, this is a reality. And then there was a report saying, hey, Austin's going to be at Mania. We don't know if it's going to be an actual match or a segment. We don't know what's going to happen. Then Austin came out and it did that pre-tape where he's out in the desert and he cuts that amazing promo, iconic Austin promo talking about how he'll be on the Kevin Owens show. And so they did the segment. Now, um, even though they looked like they were going to do a match, that simply was not the case. Now, Austin and McMahon, they eventually talked and decided the first match since 2003 for Austin was the right way to go. It was a historical moment, a match that played out in a way that highlighted Austin's strengths rather than him going out there and trying to have a five-star classic. It was an absolute brawl. Now, Owens also added details on how he came up with the finisher, the stunner, if you will, because the prize fighter, he had been using a power bomb for the longest time, and he went to Austin and said, hey, can we can I do your stunner? Can I do your finisher? And Austin was a big fan of his and said, sure, why not? Go for it. And that, in Owens's mind, planted the seed for an eventual WrestleMania match. And I think he's absolutely spot on with that because Austin, he's not going to let just anyone use his finisher. He's going to let KO use his finisher. And so by doing so, it's like, okay, here's my seal of approval, if you will. Yes, you can use my finisher. And, Austin over the years, he's talked very highly of Owens, and that's a wonderful thing. Anytime that you can have the respect of someone like Stone Cold Steve Austin in this business, a guy that has done it all, been it all, seen it all, wrestled them all, essentially, that's a major, major props. That's major if you're him and you're willing to do that. I think at the end of the day, if you're Kevin Owens, you have to look at it and go, okay, this is the real deal. This is what, I can do. And I have these limitations, right? He had to retire from wrestling for a reason. I have these limitations, Kevin. I'm also 20 years older than I was, but I think we can do X, Y, and Z. And if you go back and you look at that match, that's exactly what they had to do. I know a lot of people grade that match highly. I did not think it was a great match. It was a great moment. It was a great moment, and I can vividly remember covering it, and it's like, holy crap, Steve Austin is actually going out there and he's working. He did a backdrop on the concrete like a crazy man. Like, this guy is an epic dude. This guy is different. He hits different. He is different. And if you go and you look at it like that, it's like, okay, Steve Austin is a different human being. He's not like me and you. He's just different. And to go out there and put his life on the line, his career on the line, his health on the line for a impromptu match is outstanding. In my opinion, and even coming out of WrestleMania, there was like, well, would not Kevin Owens, but could Steve Austin come out and do another match? And he had talked about openly, they wanted him to do another match at WrestleMania 39. It was in LA, it was a major deal. The company was being sold. But the only problem was he was filming a TV show. Ironically, a TV show for A&E that only had one season and was not very good, but he was still filming it and he had a commitment. And there was people's lives depending on whether or not the show was going to be shooting or not. So I understand that. And he's like, "What do I do?" Right? Like, they want him to work a match. He's open to it. He had a lot of fun at Mania the year before, but what is he going to do? And then, he couldn't. And so they had to pass on that opportunity. And since then, you had WrestleMania 40, excuse me, WrestleMania 38 was in 2022, WrestleMania 39 was in 2023. So you had a situation in which WrestleMania 38 was actually the last one that WWE, Vince McMahon, the McMahon family owned, but I digress. And so you you had a situation where Austin now is like, "Well, I don't wanna go to WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia because I don't wanna travel." And so they had pitched him to do a run-in in the Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns match. He's like, "I don't wanna do that." And so now we get WrestleMania 41, or had WrestleMania 41, and, he's inducted into the Hall of Fame again with him and his match with Bret Hart, WrestleMania 13, and all that. But it's just interesting to see how the Steve Austin, career kinda ended, in my opinion, and various things that had to happen leading up to it, but just a fascinating story by Kevin Owens.